The meeting is now being live streamed. Good afternoon to all attendees. This is the Licensing Subcommittee D on Tuesday, the 2nd of September at 2 p.m. The first item on the agenda is the election of chair. Could I seek nominations for the chair, please?
I nominate Councillor Bell, please.
Thank you. There being no other nomination, can I confirm that Councillor Bell is in the chair? Thank you.
Councillor Sizer, you second it, yes?
Happy to second, yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Councillor Sizer. Councillor Bell, if you'd like to take the chair, thank you.
Clifford, are you not going to read out the protocols?
Yes, I'm going to now. If I can, on behalf of the chair, if I could just advise members that have, and officers and the public that haven't attended before, of the protocols for remote hearing. As this is a remote hearing, the meeting is live streamed and will be going out live and will be available for viewing after the meeting as well. Can I ask that all participants only speak when asked to by the chair? If you speak, please, if you wish to speak, can you please raise your hand by using the little marker in the bottom of the screen, okay? And then when communicating with the committee, can you please ensure that you speak slowly and clearly? If you're referring to any page or any paragraph, please refer to that paragraph or number or condition of license, and we will allow people to find time to find those references, because this is a live stream meeting and these things do take a little bit longer. Can you please ensure that your mics are switched off at all times unless speaking? The chair's mic, Councillor Bell's mic, will remain on throughout the proceedings as the chair is in the centre of the meeting. Please be succinct in your presentations or your questioning, and please do not be repetitive wherever possible. And please try to keep to the time frame indicated by the chair. If you have any specific technical difficulties, please use the little chat box in the right-hand corner, which is like a little screen, and our IT expert, Mario, will try to assist you wherever possible. Please do not use that function for chatting or making comments or requesting to speak. It is a live box and it can be seen in the live stream, okay? If there is any persistent or disruptive behaviour, this will result in the person concerned being removed from the proceedings and will not be allowed to re-enter. As there are two applications being considered today, the subcommittee, after both have been deliberated, will then close the meeting, and you will be advised by the licensing service, if you contact them tomorrow, of the decision that has been taken. That will not be communicated to applicants today. And at the end of the proceedings, although we are going to go into part 2 for one of the items, at the end of the final item, the chair will thank everyone for attending and ask them to leave the proceedings. The subcommittee will then make its deliberations in private. And that's all, Chair. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. So we have no apologies for absence. And any declarations of interest, colleagues? No. And then if I go to the hearing committee procedure, it's our standard procedure. It is reversed today in both cases because it's for the applicant for the review, or the applicant for the counter notice to make the case first. And then it's for the respondent, premise license holder, to reply to that case. At each of those stages, only the three of us can ask questions, and you should keep to 5 minutes for your statement, after which there will be a lot of time for discussion. Once we've finished those initial stages, we'll move into the discussion phase. And then towards the end, I'll ask everyone to sum up and clarify what they think the outcomes should be. And as Clifford mentioned, we will then move into a private discussion phase after we've heard any other applications for today. That is slightly complicated by the fact that the police have asked us to consider an exempt session for the first item. So we will stop the live streaming for that item, and we then will turn for a second item which will be made public. Hope that's clear to everyone. If so, if I can establish who's here for the first hearing, we have PC Atkins for the police.
Yes, Chair, you've got myself, PC Hunwick is with me, and a DC, Gerard Cassidy is here as well.
Okay. And we have Mr. Anderson from Poppleton Allen.
Yes, Chairman, present.
And I can see Miss Hagan present, I think. Yeah. And I can see Mr. Besgin present as well. I can see Mr. AJ, who's going to be another person in favor
Yes.
of the applicant.
Present.
And is Mr. Chin available or not?
Hello, yes, I'm here.
You're on the phone. Yeah, I said your name doesn't come up, but you're on the phone connection. Okay. So, and as I said, councillors sitting today are Councillor Gilbert Smith, Councillor Anya Sizer, and myself, who identify themselves on the screen. Our legal advisors, Mr. Nouth, our committee officer, Mr. Hart, who you've heard from, and representing the licensing service is Subhash Ramana. So with that, our first consideration is, do we agree to move into exempt business?
And David Chewett is here as well, Chair, representing licensing
I wasn't aware David was making representations.
Chair, I should just clarify, I'm not making representations, I'm just here in observational capacity.
Okay, so Mr. Chewett also is a head of our licensing service. So with that, I'm afraid we're going to agree the resolution to move into exempt business.
Chair, can I
And
just
we have to stop the live stream, please. Clifford.
Chair, can I just advise that item 5 that was on the agenda, which was an application for premises license at Hoxton Square, this item has been deferred due to the personal reasons of the applicant and will be considered at a later date.
I'm very sorry I didn't mention that. Yes, the item 5 has been deferred to another meeting.
Thank you.
So with that, we can agree the motion to move into exempt business and stop the live stream. So I think I did establish all the parties who are present.
The live stream is now working, Chair.
Okay, thank you. And welcome back, everyone. Just for the public record, the first hour of our hearing today was taken as confidential at the request of Hackney Police. So there will be maybe a gap in the YouTube broadcast, etc. That's why we will now return to a normal session, we put it like that. And just to identify again the officers and persons present. Myself, I'm sitting today with Councillors Gilbert Smith and Anya Sizer, our legal advisors, Ms. North, our committee officer, Mr. Hart, and Ms. Shiramana, representing the licensing service. I can see PC Hunwick from the police, and Mr. Stewart from licensing, and the applicant in this case is Mr. Ian Steele, or you're appearing on behalf of the person who's the written applicant. So with that, if Suba, you could briefly introduce the case.
Thank you, Chair. Temporary notice was given to the licensing service in respect of basement 8 Newington Road for an event to be held on the 11th of September 2021 from 2100 hours till the 12th of September 2021, 400 hours. We have received objection from the police. I have nothing else to add, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. And in this case, the police go next because they're the applicant for the counter notice. PC Hunwick, it's over to you. He's accidentally left the meeting instead of turning his microphone on. So give him a minute so to come back.
Who's he?
There you are.
Answer it and tell her that I'll call her back, please. I'll call her back. I'm in a meeting.
This is more in Dave's tablet.
Okay, PC Hunwick, over to you.
Okay, Chair, thank you. The venue at Basement 8 Stoke Newington Road is owned and leased by Mr. Ian Steele. We've found him to have a long history of non-compliance with the Licensing Act and has been found on several occasions over the years, and most recently on the 11th and 31st of July, selling alcohol and carrying out regulated entertainment when unlicensed to do so. As a result of this, we objected to a 10 submitted by Mr. Steele for the 7th and 8th of August. This was heard by a committee on the 3rd of August, and due to the way the hearing was going, Mr. Steele was forced to withdraw the 10 at summing up stage. The Chair made a number of recommendations, including engagement with the police, and Mr. Steele, by his own admission, needed to build trust. The engagement that was undertaken took the form of an email which Mr. Steele sent to us, stating that he would get people to submit 10s in their own name, and that he would undertake a personal licence course so that he could better understand the Licensing Act and the licensing objectives. He was informed by my colleague, PC Giles, not to put any further 10s through until the personal licence was passed. However, within the following week, we received 3 separate 10s in different people's names, all of which were to run to 4 AM for the next 3 Saturday nights in consecution. The first 2 were heard at subcommittee last week, where our concerns were raised that members of the public, with no understanding of the licensing objectives, were submitting 10s to a venue whose management has no understanding of the licensing objectives. These 2 10s were duly counter-noticed by a committee. This is the 3rd of those 10s, as it was unable to be heard at the time, and this is why obviously you're hearing it today. And I also remind everybody that this venue is right in the middle of the Dalston Special Policy Area, which carries obviously the further burden on operators. Our concerns are the same as previously. We have still had no further engagement with the venue, and whilst the Chair will be aware that each licence is heard on its own merits, we feel that this is merely a proxy application. The venue is still run by Mr. Steele, who has yet to show any evidence of progression with his personal licence application, and to issue this 10 would be to reward the venue with business it does not deserve at a time when it has not yet proven itself to be worthy of trust. and we believe that the premises user would be best placing this booking elsewhere. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And just for the record, I sat on the case on the 3rd of August, where he previously withdrew the application. I did not sit on the subsequent cases. Mr. Steele, it's over to you.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Okay. I've just made a couple of notes whilst I was sat there. The police objections were based on crime and disorder, public safety and prevention of public nuisance. I can deal with that by stating this. Prior to the pandemic, the previous 2 years, we were issued with in excess of 2010 applications, all of which went through, all of which there were no issues by any of the licensing bodies. 13 were submitted in 2019, all approved, and 2018 there were 10. As I said, there are no crimes or disturbances, and all of this is acknowledged in letters from both the police and environmental health. 2020 came and the pandemic set in, and obviously we had no activities. 2021, just recently, we've had one case that the police raised, which I acknowledged was an issue, albeit it wasn't myself, but standing responsibility for it, I accepted that. The second one, we desperately dispute with the police's record of it, and we continue to do that. So much so that we have written a letter of complaint on to the police higher up with regards to statements that are made and things that I've been accused of that have totally not been proved, and we dispute. Following the first subcommittee hearing, I was asked to try and develop relationships with the police, which I activated by writing to them with our steps or proposal of the way moving forward. One of those steps I suggested would be that I take a personal license course in order to, according to the police, their issues were that my understanding of the license and objectives. So I said I would take that course to better understand it, and so the police could be satisfied that I better understood it. However, I'm actually on that course, and the exam I'll ask my partner in a second what day the exam is. However, with regards to myself taking that exam, the whole issue with the club has been that we will put a manager in place who actually runs and takes these functions and moves them forward. I'm 70 years of age at the next birthday. I do not want to be involved in nighttime activities, etc. So our plan has been activated, and we've put a manager in place who has many years experience of activities and running them. However, when we have submitted all these 10s in the past that have been approved, we do have a DPS on site who has his personal license. So if there were any issues, that DPS would deal with them. I am merely the club owner. I am not the person running the activities. Now, we are in a saturated area, as P.C. Hunswick has said, but I would beg to argue the fact that the ethnicity in that saturated area does not cater for most of the ethnicity that we deal with, and also the LGBT community. Now, people ask for birthday parties and other celebratory events for their families, which they come and they apply to us. I take particularly exception, and I will be taking it further. This is not the first time that P.C. Hunswick has accused the applications of being proxy applications. Why were the previous 20 not proxy applications? all that went through absolutely successfully with no issues at all. It seems to be.
Can you address what you intend to do on the 11th of September? What that event's about? That's what we're here to determine
That
today.
event is a young lady from the LGBT community who has previously had her birthday party with us, who wishes to have her 41st birthday party with us. Obviously, she could not do the 40th birthday party last year, which was her big birthday. So she wishes to do it this year. That is the application.
And the name on the application, Denisha, who is that person?
I beg your pardon?
The name on the application, Denisha, who is that?
That is the person who has applied.
That is the person who's organising the birthday party, or having the birthday party in your club.
Yes, she's organised it for her colleague, yes.
Which is it? Is she the person whose party it is or not?
Well, she's the person that applies. As I said, I don't deal with all the applications. I'm the club owner in this situation. But if you just give me a minute, I will tell you. Would you be able to bear with me a second? I have to go into the laptop to see
Okay,
the booking.
please do.
Thank you. Yes, this young lady's applied for a member of her family.
So again, is it her birthday party?
She's the organizer, right? I'm not sure if it's her birthday party. She's organized it.
And is she associated with yourself?
I beg your pardon?
Is she associated with yourself?
No, not at all.
Just as a customer?
It's just that all these tents are all customers. None of them are associated with me.
So you are encouraging members of the public to put an application for TENS?
Could you repeat that, please?
You are encouraging members of the public to put an application for TENS?
I'm not encouraging it. If these people are looking for venues to have their events, and we are one of those venues that they're applying to have their activity at. We don't encourage them. We are
But
just
most
an
people
available
don't
venue.
understand the TENS process. Someone must be directing them towards it.
No, when they have applied to us, we have said we currently do not have a license. If you want to have a licensable activity, you have to apply for the 10. And
So
that's
you
why the application
are
has been put in.
encouraging them to apply for TENS?
Yes, if they want an activity that is licensed, has a licensable objective.
Right. I think we're finally getting to the bottom of that particular element.
Right.
I think we've heard from the parties at the moment. Councillor Smith.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I just kind of, the word club has been kind of banded around, which would sort of lead me to think that you're actually an established sort of venue. I mean, and so the question is, why TENS and not just a full license if you haven't got a full license already? That's the first question. And it's just for my own sort of clarity. And then just to go back to the fact that you just, I think the thing that you dispute with the police, is that the situation on the 31st of the 7th? Is that the one that you're disputing?
Most definitely.
Yeah. And I just want you to go into that a little bit after the first question. So the first question is about the license, and then what is the dispute with the police on the 31st?
We have an outstanding application for a full premises license, and during that process, we were asked prior to the pandemic to liaise with the police and go, I have someone who's representing me in that, an agent who is doing that. We went along to the police. We had a meeting with them. We've had more than one meeting with them, and it was established or it was agreed at that meeting that the police had no serious objections and would not be opposing that application. So suddenly, after the pandemic, we were particularly surprised that these accusations started to come about after this pandemic, because we were not expecting that at all. The second point that you make, which is the item on the 31st, and which can be verified by video recordings that I've submitted to the subcommittee previously, which we have on file because we will be using them, because as I say, we have made a complaint about this. The first one was an activity on the football match, the England finals, the European Championships. My son did what he was not supposed to do, and I held my hand up to that because I should have known about it and I didn't. So I held my hand up to that. The second activity was we were not doing anything unlicensable. We were not selling alcohol, as has been accused of us. We let the police into the venue, having seen them on the cameras that they were outside. We let them in. We weren't doing anything at all that was unlicensable. Now, I've asked this question before, and it hasn't been answered fully. If we were doing anything unlicensable, the police were there, they saw there were about 15 people in the premises, why wasn't it stopped? If we were doing anything unlicensable? And this is the question that we have all the time. It wasn't a party per se, yeah, we had club members in the premises and only 15. That was the activity.
Can you just elaborate on the word club? So is it like a members club then? Because
yes,
obviously,
it is.
okay,
yes, it is.
So I'm kind of getting the picture now.
Yes, it is.
Because obviously, when you mention club, I'm thinking, oh, music clubs type of venue or whatever. But actually, it's a members sort of club. Okay, great. Thank you.
I think it's only fair if I allow the police to come back on what Steele just said.
Of course.
Yeah, Chair, if I could just clarify, Mr. Steele has attempted on, I believe, 2 previous occasions to obtain a full licence for the premises, and it's been determined at the subcommittee that that's been declined. Mr. Steele does have a current application in which was deferred at his own request some 2 years ago, and that is sitting on the books ready to be reactivated. With regard to the 2 situations that we find ourselves in with regards to the unlicensable activity on this occasion that we've found, because we have found previously the venue operating without a licence, but on these 2 occasions, I was there on the first occasion, which Mr. Steele states that he should have known about, that his son was responsible for, but in fact, Mr. Steele was behind the bar serving when we entered the actual club, and was on body-worn camera found not personally, but the till was being rung up with drinks. As far as the second occasion is concerned, I think the explanation given by Mr. Steele to my colleagues who entered the venue was that it was okay, he wasn't selling drinks because he was running up a tab for it to be settled up later, which still makes it the retail of alcohol. It doesn't matter at what point you set up the bill, the point is you are retailing alcohol. Makes the difference is to 15 people or 1 person, that is the case. There was also music playing loudly, and also I believe hot food being served, which is late night refreshment, which is also licensable at the time that my colleagues visited. So on all those points, I would state that Mr. Steele has not been compliant with the Act. Well, it's not for us to prosecute or to close it down. We're only maybe 1 or 2 licensing officers out at a time. So this has been transferred, this information to the council. Mr. Chewett confirmed last week at subcommittee that they were aware of at least 1 of the 2 occasions. So we've done what we can do, and that really is what we've got.
I think while the history is very relevant, what's also relevant is what's been applied for is a member of the public. We're now being told applying to have an event. Do you have any confidence that person will understand licensing objectives?
No, and this was my point for the other 10s that were submitted. It's exactly the same point, Chair, and that was raised last week. You effectively got somebody with no knowledge of the licensing objectives applying to run an event selling alcohol in a premises that has shown itself to have no knowledge of the licensing objectives and the Licensing Act. If that wasn't the case, and we do have occasions where sometimes people will put a TED in for a wedding in their name, etc., and they will have a licensed bar come in or whatever. You're dealing with people that have got some knowledge and understanding of the Act. But one of their main problems is the fact that Mr. Steele was repeatedly shown that he has no knowledge and has not shown us or engaged with us in any way to show that he's taking steps to do that. And it's all very well for him to say that he's about to take his examination, but this has all been at every stage. Subcommittee is designated that there should be some engagement. And just to send us an email going, yeah, this is what I'm going to do, I'm going to get the 10s put in somebody else's name, is not engagement. That's, to us, finding a way around the problem that they face at the moment, which is getting the 10s authorised.
Councillor Sizer.
Just a brief question about going forwards. There was obviously a lack of communication at best in terms of your son and what he was doing, and you're saying that you were unaware of that. How would you mitigate that going forward? What would be protocol, procedure? Have you got anything in place so that the same scenario wouldn't happen repeatedly?
Mr. Steele, please come in.
Thank you for the question, Councillor. As I've said in the notes that I read previously, we now have a manager in place, yeah, who fully understands the processes of running a club or an organisation. Yeah, she was at the last subcommittee hearing that was held. Her name is Michelle Liebenberg. Yeah. With regards to the previous situations, may I just repeat what I said before? At all functions, we have a DPS on site, a DPS with a full personal license. It's not about me. I am not necessarily there, but we ensure that somebody who understands the licensing laws is there. The situation with regards to the football match, it wasn't an activity we had booked out. As I explained previously, my son and his football club wanted to watch the match there. Now, they did something that was wrong, which they advertised it outside on a board that they were going to be showing it for £15. Yes, wrong. And I totally hold my hand up to that. But there has been no other activity where the police has come and found us doing anything unlicensable. I refer you back to the previous 2010s, in excess of 2010s, that we have had.
Still, just for clarification, you've engaged this lady, Michelle Liebenberg, as your manager going forward.
Correct. She
Yes?
will be managing the club.
However, you don't have a premise license in place at the moment, do you?
No, we don't, and hence why she's only managing the actual activities that we put on. We don't do anything on a weekday or any other day of the week.
And
Yeah.
just to confirm, we're all agreed you haven't yet achieved your personal license.
No, one second. Josie? 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 Excuse me a second. Josie, when is the email from Knights for the personal license? Yeah, when did it come? Yes, I haven't printed it off, so I don't know the date. You don't know the date, okay. She doesn't know the date, but I am enrolled and I can forward that to you. I am enrolled on that course and that will be this week.
But it's not been completed yet. Are we all agreed on that?
Yeah, but my point, if I may respond to you, Chair, is that it's not me that's going to be the person running these events. It's somebody who has that personal license. I will be taking it, yes.
But
there's no reason for me to actually take it.
Acquired it yet, just to be clear on the facts.
No, I've not acquired it yet. I'm in the process
Right.
of it.
And as no premises license exists in this, Michelle Liebenberg cannot currently promote events.
Yeah, she takes the bookings. She takes bookings and makes sure that we have a DPS in situ when that event is taking place.
Without a premises license.
For a 10, we don't have to have a premises license. This is why we apply for the 10.
But I thought you were suggesting she has a wider role.
No, well, what I've suggested is that she is the new manager of the organisation with a personal license and will be the DPS. She's only started within the last 2 weeks.
PC Hunwick, you've had your hand up for.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I mean, obviously, as you're aware, you can't have a DPS if you haven't got a premises license. So the whole premise is null and void. I think really, I mean, obviously, Mr. Steele's saying that he's now going to get his personal license, and we would like to obviously to see that as a starting point. But obviously, where he's saying is that he's now going to be taking the back step because he's now 70. I think really there needs to be some sort of planning ahead with regards to what exactly Mr. Steele wants to do with the venue. And I would suggest, to 10 aside, that there be, as I say, the engagement that there should have been all along through his process with regards to his premises license application, and having face-to-face meetings, or even over the Zoom or Google, to actually discuss what we would expect as police, what the licensing authority would expect of Mr. Steele, because clearly after all these years of trying, he hasn't got it yet. So I think we really need to do a little bit more than putting some tens in and hoping for the best.
And again, these applications aren't from either Mr. Steele or Ms. Liebenberg. They're now, we know, members of the public who have little or no understanding of licensing objectives.
Exactly. That's our other submission. The fact that they're in somebody else's name, they don't know any more about licensing than anybody else. And where we would normally expect it to be a premises license and maybe having an extension of hours, for a party or an event that's going to be run by somebody that's got a DPS, got a personal license, is used to running an event, etc. That carries a lot less risk than just somebody going, please, yes, I want to have a birthday party there.
Councillor Smith, do you have any questions or points?
Well, I'd just like to ask Mr. Steele, just what the police have just mentioned there about kind of the future and what you expect to do in the future. The fact that you want to apply for a license, seems to be a good option to me. And I think I would encourage you to go down that road. But maybe if you just tell me what you think the future of the venue is going to be.
Thank you for the question. The future for the venue is what it was always proposed to do. With regards to PC Hunswick, we have had meetings with the police indicating what we are going to do, and that is on record. We have had, and we've specified exactly what we were going to do. Now, as I've said, moving forward, we have a manager in place who will be running the venue. At every event, on the premises application, as you'll know, Chair, we have to put who the DPS is or is going to be in that process. And it's been the same person that it's been over the last 3 years that we've been given tens. We've had these tens approved over the last 3 years without incident. Nothing has gone wrong, and it's been the same DPS and who is there at all times. Nothing has changed.
Given that it sounds like the premises license issue won't be resolved in the next few days, do you intend to continue to ask members of the public to apply for temporary event notices?
I have a letter here which I wrote to the police. May I read it?
No, could you just answer the question? Are you intending to continue to encourage members of the public to apply?
If somebody wants to have a licensable activity at the venue, they must apply for a 10. They cannot have a licensed event without applying for a 10.
So that sounds like a yes rather than a no.
Well, it is. I don't encourage people. People apply to have a function. And only way they can have that function at the venue is by applying for a 10.
Can I suggest?
You must guide them to the TENS process.
I beg your pardon?
You must guide them to the TENS process. Members of the public don't understand that.
No, they do. We, along with the applicant, download the 10 application. They fill in the relevant part. We give them the information with regards to the premises, which needs to be completed within the application, and they send it off. But within that, we always establish that whether it's going to be a licensable activity, if it is, you need to apply for a 10 and able to do it. We have a personal license holder and a DPS in situ if you're going to have that event. Yes.
Yeah.
And no premises license in force.
I beg your pardon?
And no premises license in force.
Well, that's why they're applying for the 10.
Councillor Smith.
Yeah, Chair, I think there's just a little bit of confusion here. Mr. Steele, it would be better to apply for those licenses through that manager you've just appointed, I would suggest, rather than the members of the public.
Sorry.
It would be better to do it that way, I think,
Fine, we have no issues with doing it, but from reading the applications, we've got no problems with doing that because our manager is able to put through the tens.
Yeah, I think that would be a better way
no
around.
problem. No problem. We can do that.
Yeah.
So
No,
are
we
you
were just
accepting
being- we
that
were
this
just
current
being
application
honest.
is unwise?
We were just being honest with regards to who's applying for the 10. We have nothing to hide.
Still, are you accepting this current application is unwise?
Unwise?
Yeah.
No, I don't accept that it's unwise. That young lady wants to have her activity and she's applied through the 10 process. We are providing somebody who will be at the activity who has the necessary qualifications to be able to have the event.
But you don't have the premises license in place to have necessary qualifications.
That is,
You're
why we've
unqualified in
applied,
that
that is why we've applied. That's why she's applied for the 10 because there's no premises license in place.
Okay, Councillor Sizer, do you have any questions or points you want to put?
No, not questions. I'm slightly unclear as to why the focus is on tens rather than getting an overall license. If the aim over the next few years is to have a licensed venue, and it sounds like for you to step back in some ways.
I am.
I'm slightly unclear as to what the focus is.
I can answer that.
You're quite right to raise it, but we need to focus in on the application we have determined today, which is only a temporary event notice. And the history is relevant, but we're today here to resolve one issue, one quite narrow issue. But as we've heard, there is a long history to this. Mr. Steele is making an application and the police have been unhappy with some of the details of it. Have you got any questions related to the temporary event notice particularly?
No.
Okay, sorry to stop you, but it does sometimes need to be focused.
Okay.
PC Hunwick.
Yeah, Chair. I mean, just before we give any sort of false hope that if any future tens are submitted through this manager, there does need to be quite some engagement. Obviously, meeting her, seeing what her credentials are, seeing what her personal life, if she has got a personal license, etc. It's all very well to when we're sitting here discussing the 10 to say this person's in place, but this is all part of the engagement that we've been asking for all along, which is this all needs to be checked out and more properly within the realms of a full application, which as I've said has been stayed. To just circumvent it with tens is a little bit sort of disingenuous. They are there for particularly fakes, etc. They're not being used for what they were designed to be used for. People do use them for extensions, and in this particular time, we don't like the fact it's always put till 4 a.m. in the morning. They're sort of nightclub hours, always for a birthday, 4 a.m. in the morning. Straight in. There should be some sort of engagement. We'll talk about hours, etc. So there's a lot of work to be done yet before I think Mr. Steele's in a position to start moving forward with even temporary event notices.
Amanda, do you think there are any issues we should have asked about we haven't?
No, I think you've covered everything. Thank you.
Unless you've got any final clarifications, I would move to summing up. Councillor Smith.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'd just like to give Mr. Steele an opportunity to come back on the engagement with the police and ultimately what the best way that you see going forward in terms of that interaction with them, because they're calling for the interaction. They don't feel they've had it. What can you do to make sure and to reassure them that you'll get on board, communicate with them to their satisfaction and to yours going forward?
Okay.
Steele?
May I?
Yes, please.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Yes, as I've said previously, we have interaction. We have had interaction with the police, and not that long ago. I have a representative who is dealing with the premises license application and who has just recently written to a senior officer at the police moving forward. Yeah. Now we have a pending premises license application. And we were hoping that would be quite imminent. So moving forward, there will be that, and there will be the new manager who will be involved in that also. With regards to 10 applications, as I say, the only way that we can run a licensable function is with a 10 application.
Yeah.
Now,
but my question was, what are you going to do about the engagement with the police? Because I think they want to engage with you.
Okay, no problem. I mean, I'm the one that took the initiative and wrote to the police. I'm the one that did that. They have
Yeah.
responded,
Yeah.
and we've left it. And their last email is actually right here, which actually says, and they suggest, going forward, I would suggest you complete your personal license training course and get back in touch once that is done. Now,
Yeah.
I'm doing that, but additional to that, I've put someone in place whilst that is being done, so that there won't be any issues with regards to understanding the licensable activities.
Yeah. So basically, what you're saying to me is that you are open to this engagement,
Of course.
and you know that you'll carry on and make that engagement work going into the
Correct.
future.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Brilliant. Excellent. Thank you.
Okay, if there's no other new issues to be raised, PC Hundrick, do you want to sum up?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've said everything which needs to be said. As I say, we have concerns with regards to the licensing objectives being upheld, with TENS being submitted by people that have got no knowledge of the licensing objectives to a venue that's got no knowledge of the licensing objectives. So I will leave it at the councillor and the chair's decision, and that's it. We'll keep it short.
Thank you, Mr. Steele.
Thank you.
It's your chance to sum up if you wish.
I beg your pardon?
It's your chance to sum up proceedings if you wish.
Thank you. Yes, the TENS that are being applied for, and this one in particular, is individuals who want their celebrations at our venue, which we believe to be a nice venue. Yeah, we don't have extraordinary activities there. It's normally just celebration. Now, we have applied over the last exclude last year. Previous years, we've done exactly what we've done previously. We've done nothing different. We have applied in exactly the same way people who were holding functions applied, with our person in situ who had the license and knowledge with their personal license. That has not changed and will not change. Yeah. Now, we have a pending premises license application. We're hoping to expedite that ASAP. So there won't be any need for the TENS. Yeah. But we are a body that is legitimate. We don't do anything untoward. The police have got, and I understand that they've got their duties to perform and their concerns to raise, and I accept that. We have no issues with that, but we have tried to work in conjunction with the police by having meetings with them. And as I said, the very last meeting that we had prior to this situation coming up was, we thought, was a very progressive and productive liaison. So we're a bit taken back that this has suddenly come up in the way that it has.
A final clarification from the police. Do you think it's a reasonable expectation on Mr. Steele's part his licensing issues will be resolved very speedily?
I would suggest, given the long history of non-compliance and problems, that it's unlikely that it's going to be a short journey that Mr. Steele is on.
Thank you. Any other final clarifications, Mr. Smith?
Well, yeah, just on that point, PC Hunwick, just have you got any evidence of this prior historical issues you talk about? You know, because it does sound pretty serious to me, but we need evidence.
Well, no, I mean, it's intermittent when we've visited the club. I mean, before lockdown occurred, myself and PC Atkins attended at the club, and there was security at the door taking money for entry. And again, there was music playing. There was no TEN involved. So, you know, that's in the short time, the short couple of years I've been in the licensing unit. So it's a sort of repeated thing. I mean, we don't spend our lives camped on Mr. Steele's doorstep, but when people get caught out repeatedly, then that forms in our mind a pattern of behaviour.
So how many times has that happened, would you say?
Well, since the lockdowns opened up, it's twice in 1 month.
Yeah, but before that?
Before that, I mean, I'd have to speak to my colleagues. I mean, Kerry and Amanda have been like on the unit, many, many more years than I have, and they're fully aware, I think, of the history. So I can only tell you what I've experienced.
But we need sort of concrete evidence, really. You know, that's what we need. You've got two events, but the historical ones you talk about in your, you know, what you're saying there. You know, you've got no evidence for that, as far as I'm concerned.
But I mean, I was here to talk about. I'm here to talk about one temporary event notice. Okay, in the atmosphere, should I say, of this is. I know it's a different committee and it should be heard on its own merits, but I had this same conversation last week with another 2 10s. So exactly the same thing was said. We're in a situation whereby the venue hasn't got a license. It's trying to operate on 10s when it's been found operating without 10s and carrying out licensing activity. So at what stage do we just keep going, yeah, go and carry on, go and have another 10, good, it'll get better next week. And that's where we're at. So sooner or later, you've got to draw a line in the sand. And I think this is where we're now at. You either go down the correct route, which is you do everything you should do as a reputable operator, or you keep on operating on the margins, you know, with temporary event notice, etc., etc. And we're at that stage now where we've drawn the line, because you know we never normally bring temporary event notices to you. This is a specific problem which has arisen now.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Steele, please reply.
Thank you. As Councillor Smith has said, I would really like to see the evidence myself, because there isn't any. We have never had a situation where the police have come and said, you're doing something unlicensable. We have not had that. And if we were, I am pretty sure in good faith, the police would have said, you're doing something unlicensable and illegal, please stop it. That has never happened. So when the police are saying that it's time and time and time again, please provide the evidence. We would like to see it and respond to it and deal with it with the police.
But what we're considering today is an application by a member of the public through yourself using the TENS process for an event that we do not understand quite how license objectives would be enforced. You won't have your training finished. You won't have your premises license in place. There will be no conditions, therefore, applying to you.
Well, Chair, this has been the case for all the other TENs that have been applied for in the previous 3 years. It's been exactly
including all the
same.
ones objected to since the events on the 11th and the 31st of July.
I beg your pardon?
Including the ones objected to since the events on the 11th and 31st of July.
I wrote to the police following the first hearing that I pulled out of, and I said I will correspond with the police, which I did, and I have their response to that here, and I clearly state in that people who want their TENs, their own activities, functions, will apply in their names. I specified it in my response to the police. I'm not doing anything that we haven't said.
I think the term used was engagement, and whether or not your response meets engagement, the police certainly don't seem to think it does.
Well, certainly I did engage with them. I wrote and got a response from them. I specified exactly how we would be moving forward.
They didn't consider it adequate to call it engagement.
Well, they did, because they responded, Chair. They
No,
responded
they
with
didn't
the
think it
points
was
that I made.
adequate to meet the terms of engagement.
I beg your pardon?
They have stated today they did not consider it adequate to meet terms of meaningful engagement.
Well, they didn't state that in their response to me.
Which is possibly why it's inadequate.
Chair, the greatest of respect, I wrote to the police. I said, these are the steps. My final sentence was, I do hope that by taking these measures, they will help to allay your concerns and enable us all to move forward positively. However, should you have any further concerns or advice you wish to give, please do not hesitate to let me know. Please, I think that is engaging with the police.
Okay, PC Hunwick, one final time.
Yeah, I mean, the engagement, Mr. Steele did write to us, which was obviously after the 10 was withdrawn, stating that amongst the things he would do was, to, as he's already just said, get other people to put the 10s in their name, and finished off with he would then endeavour to get his own personal licence. Now, my colleague in answer to what he's just said, replied to him, please let us know when you've got your personal license, and please don't put any 10 applications in until you have.
That was not
And
said.
then promptly we got 3 10 applications.
That was not said.
So that is the engagement, which we don't think is engagement. That's
Okay,
just,
so we've heard
this
that.
is I'm going to do this, and when I did it, that's not, you know, by telling us you're going to do it in advance doesn't make it engagement.
Okay, so we've heard from 2 sides on that. I think we're not going to get a resolution. Colleagues, is there any final clarification needed? Councillor Smith?
No, I think I'm relatively content with what I've heard.
Okay.
But I would like to say to Mr. Steele, though, I think a DPS needs to be applying for those 10s in the future. Right? Definitely. That's all I'll say. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Sizer?
No further.
Mr. North?
Yes, all I'm just going to say is that I hope that Mr. Steele is taking on board what the police have said today, and that basically he will be aware that, you know, it's important that we can't have repeated 10s just being submitted only, you know, to be rejected. We want him to, you know, run a responsible premises so that he can hold events responsibly in the future. But it's very important that he takes on board what the police have said today about these 10s. Thank you.
Okay, thank you all. I'm going to close the hearing at this point. As we have mentioned earlier, if you phone licensing tomorrow, we will have a summary decision for you. Obviously, as this event is coming up imminently, that's quite important. So we'll try and have it available tomorrow morning. Thank you very much for your attendance. If Mr. Steele, Mr. Chewett, Ms. Sharmana, and the police could please log out.
Thank you.